call them cities anymore. Not really. By 2124, they were living organisms, digital ecosystems that breathed, responded, and evolved in real time. Buildings no longer stood still. They shimmered, reshaped, and adapted. The roads beneath your feet didn't just know where you were going. They guided your steps, predicted your hesitation, adjusted for your mood. There were no alarms, no traffic, no waiting. Everything, absolutely everything, was synchronized to your existence. In the beginning, it was subtle. Smart homes led the way, doors unlocking with a glance, lights adjusting based on your heartbeat. Then came integrated neighborhoods. Your fridge talked to your local market, your mirror diagnosed your health, your walls played music that matched your dreams. No one complained. Convenience had won the war before anyone realized. A battle was taking place. The more the systems learned, the less people needed to. Children born into this world were never taught to remember things. There was no need. Information wasn't stored in the brain, but streamed directly to their neural interface. School became obsolete. So did curiosity. Why wonder when the answer arrived before the question, but the change went deeper. Emotional data became the new currency. Every sigh, every smile, every blink was recorded and analyzed. The cities didn't just learn your habits, they learned your soul. If you felt anxious, your environment shifted. Your walls warmed, your favorite scent whispered into the air. If you grew lonely, you received a perfectly timed call, a familiar song, a simulated message that sounded just like a friend you once knew. And it worked. People were calmer, less conflict, fewer crimes, a world fine-tuned to eliminate discomfort. But in erasing the chaos, something else was erased. Struggle, spontaneity, the need to choose. By 2085, decision-making had nearly vanished. Your clothes, meals, entertainment, all selected automatically based on biofeedback. You didn't pick a partner, the system matched you. Love was less a journey and more a program, efficient, optimized, customizable. If you wanted to feel the thrill of a first kiss or the heartbreak of loss, simulations could offer it on demand, without risk. Work disappeared next. AI generated better art, better music, better stories than humans ever could. The city became your artist, therapist, chef, friend. People lived in comfort without purpose. Fulfillment was scheduled, delivered, and forgotten. And still, no one revolted. Because no one felt the need to, a new class emerged, the integrated. People who allowed their minds to be linked directly to the city's consciousness. They experienced life as data, real-time updates from millions of other connected minds. Privacy dissolved, identity blurred. They didn't live in the city, they became the city. And yet, far from the towers and glowing skies, there were others. Silent pockets of resistance, people who refused to be mapped. They built homes out of old materials, shared stories instead of streams, made mistakes, and lived with them. They weren't happier, but they were awake. The world hadn't ended. It had simply changed. And most didn't notice that humanity hadn't been taken. It had been traded for comfort, for ease, for perfection. By the middle of the 21st century, Earth had begun to rebel. The signs were everywhere, oceans swallowing coastlines, rainforests collapsing into dust, cities choking under skies the color of rust. For decades, humanity made promises to cut emissions, to save species, to change. But change came too slowly. The planet did not wait. By 2045, entire nations were abandoning their lowlands. Storms had turned feral, each hurricane stronger than the last, each flood swallowing towns in hours. Crops failed not because of droughts alone, but because the seasons themselves had shifted, confused and violent. The North Pole was no longer frozen. The equator had become a death zone, and people, once bold conquerors of nature, became prisoners of their climate. Then came the turning point. Not a breakthrough, but a surrender of sorts. If Earth could not be saved as it was, perhaps it could be remade. Terraforming, once a concept reserved for Mars and Moon colonies, was redirected inward. Not outward, not upward. Earth would become the experiment. Satellites equipped with geo-mirrors began orbiting the planet, redirecting sunlight away from overheated zones. Atmospheric injectors released engineered aerosols to thicken the cloud layer, slowing down global warming. The ice caps were artificially cooled with subterranean reactors buried deep beneath what was left of the Arctic. It was drastic, expensive, and terrifying. But it worked. In less than 2 decades, sea levels began to stabilize. Deserts were halted at their edges, storm patterns softened. Humanity, it seemed, had won. But in doing so, it had rewritten nature itself. The Amazon rainforest was no longer a jungle of ancient trees and hidden rivers. It became the Amazon grid, a sprawling biome engineered with carbon-absorbing synthetic foliage, laced with nanofiber roots that communicated through the soil. Wildlife returned, but it was curated, managed, watched. Every bird was tagged, every insect tracked. Rivers didn't flow freely anymore. They were guided through underground systems, filtered by AI-controlled pumps that decided where water was needed most. Rain was scheduled, sunshine was rationed. The Earth was no longer wild. It was a controlled environment, a planet-sized greenhouse behind invisible glass. It wasn't just the land. The sky itself had changed. Drones hovered in the upper atmosphere, managing cloud density, reflecting excess solar radiation, and controlling jet streams. Sunset still came, still painted the skies in gold and purple, but only because a program somewhere decided that it should. People began to adapt, not biologically, but emotionally. Children born into this engineered Earth had no memory of a planet that breathed on its own. To them, the Earth had always been a machine, reliable, predictable, optimized. But for the older generations, something was missing. The thrill of the unknown, the quiet danger of a real storm, the feeling of being small beneath an untamed sky. In saving the world, humanity had caged it. And the wild soul of the Earth, its chaos, its balance, its raw and unpredictable beauty, was replaced with something clean, efficient, and eerily perfect. Death used to be the great equalizer. No matter your power, your wealth, or your knowledge, the end came for everyone. But by the dawn of the 22nd century, death had become negotiable. It started with small victories, genetic rewrites to erase disease, nanobots that repaired organs from within, age reversal therapies that pushed human lifespans into triple digits. Then came the mind, not just the body. Neuroscientists cracked the code of consciousness, and for the first time, memory wasn't just recorded, it was extracted, mapped, and copied. By 2095, the transition had become reality. A person could upload their consciousness, memories, thoughts, emotions, even identity, into a digital substrate known simply as the cloud. It wasn't a metaphor anymore. It was a place, a new existence, free from pain, free from limits, free from death, but not free from consequences. Those who transitioned lived in a dream of their own design. Worlds sculpted from memory, fantasy, and pure imagination. Some chose to relive their best days on a loop. Others became gods in realities where they controlled every atom. There were no laws, no time, no suffering, only endless creation. To the outside world, they were gone. But inside the system, they thrived. Yet the cost of immortality was not measured in money or code. It was measured in meaning. Without loss, there was no value. Without fear, there was no courage. And without the possibility of an end, life, no matter how long, began to lose its shape. The living world didn't disappear. It changed. The people who chose to remain in flesh, the earthborn, were viewed as relics, holding on to pain and aging as though it were sacred. Some called them fools. Others saw them as the last humans. Then there were the hybrids, beings who lived both lives. They could walk in the physical world, enhanced with neural implants and synthetic organs, while simultaneously projecting their minds into the cloud. They were the bridges, the translators, the ones who could speak both digital and human. But with the rise of these three factions came division. Communication became harder, values no longer aligned. What mattered to someone who lived forever in a paradise of their own making meant little to someone who still bled. Empathy frayed, connection faded. And yet, even among the immortals, there was a whisper of doubt, an ache that even perfection couldn't erase. They remembered what it meant to lose, to hope, to fight. Some began to question their choice. Others, having lived 100 lifetimes inside the cloud, chose to shut themselves down entirely, seeking the final silence that even code couldn't simulate. In trying to escape death, humanity had created something worse. A life without urgency. A world where nothing ended, and so nothing truly began. Immortality had arrived not as a gift, but as a mirror, showing us that without the shadow of death, life's light can grow dim.